Got a question off the Facebook page on French contrast training and if it is the best training method for vertical jump out there. And so wanted to approach that first. What is French contrast for those of you who might not be completely familiar? Uh, excuse me. Basically, it's an advanced form of complex training, or like strength power supersets. And what you have is you have two strength exercises, two speed exercises, and it's kind of like a multi-wave complex training setup. So, for example, before I try to get any more confusing, flipping over words, it's I would start with like a very heavy squat or half squat, and for like 3-4 reps, and then I'd wait 20 seconds. I'd drop to a speed exercise, so maybe a depth jump off like a higher box. Okay, so more of like a force-oriented power exercise. Then I'd move to another barbell or maybe kettlebell exercise that's more explosive or speed-oriented. So I might do like jump squats or cleans or kettlebell jumps, something along those lines. And then I would finally move to a very fast plyometric, or even an assisted, so like an assisted jump using a band to pull me up, or if I wasn't doing assisted stuff, something very fast, like a speed tuck jump, or maybe like a very low speed box jump, or a line hop for speed, or a speed jump roping. So whatever's at the end has to be extremely fast, extremely quick contacts. So and it's the kind of the conglomeration of those four exercises that produces a very powerful training effect, and one that would be more powerful than just regular, like just kind of back and forth alternating of strength and speed. So that's French contrast in a nutshell. Also, real quick too, before I get any farther, I will say there's some people who would disagree with French contrast outright, just because the research is mixed on complex training in terms of potentiation from a strength exercise really does improve the quality of a speed exercise. And what I have to say about that is two things. One, I am, basically, if you want to do a speed exercise extremely well, you just need to be very warmed up. Sometimes you can use barbells to warm up, but you can also use a good warm up, specific warm up to warm up. There's a lot of ways to warm up. With complex training, using barbells just happens to be a little more efficient way of doing things a lot of times. So you're saving yourself a little time and energy and making your workout more efficient. That's always a good thing. Simpler the better. At the worst, it often can't necessarily hurt. And on top of that, you shouldn't be like, the only time you try to do quality shouldn't be in your complex training sessions. That being said, complex training can be really good because of the motor learning aspect. If I'm trying to learn a skill, which speed and strength is a skill, it's not just this strange quality out there. It's a skill that your brain puts together. If I want to learn that skill better, it can be better to use randomized learning as opposed to block learning. And complex training is randomized learning. French contrast training is a lot of randomized learning. It's boosted randomized learning. There's more variables. Okay, so your brain isn't kind of getting sucked into one direction so much. Like when I do squats, that kind of carries my nervous system in the direction of a little bit slower force for a period of time, and then I'll go to speed later, and then my nervous system goes back to speed, on this back and forth mechanism, and then French contrast just kind of puts it all together. Okay, so you're kind of walking out of the workout with all stimuli kind of in place, and a lot of times it is better from keeping speed as the focus philosophy to do some things together like that. So anyways, I'm a believer in complex training. I mean, regardless of what the research says, I do think it works. I don't think it's a replacement for well-planned, high-intensity work, but I think it's good. My experience with French contrast in the last couple of years has been great. Myself, I used it for about a month cycle and took my vert on the jump mat from 31 to 34. And that 34 jump was the highest it had been on the mat since I was about 26. And I was about 30 when I did it. So basically, 4-year... kind of broke a 4-year hiatus of getting in the 34s there. I was pretty excited about that. Of course, you always got to look at the stuff I was doing before, which is a lot of strength. So because I was doing a lot of strength work before, my body was very ready for the more speed and power oriented French contrast work. But it was good. I thought that, honestly, if I would have just done plyometrics, I may very well have gotten a lot more out of that French contrast session than plyometrics and speed work alone. And we're using it with my clients. Some of the clients I train online, I've had great results. I have clients who love it, who are always asking me for it, to put it in their program. And so I think it's great. I've used it with the swim team um, at Cal, and I think it's been, just for like a 2 week period. It was useful. I think there's a very strong buy-in effect with it. And that's always a good thing. You always want to have a strong buy-in, but you also want to be able to back it up with scientific principles. So that's key. Um, so bottom line, I think it's good. I think for short-term gains, it's awesome. I think the basis of a lot of if you go to the internet and you click jump program and you buy a jump program, a lot of them are going to have complex training in it, and that's not a mistake. It works. It wouldn't be in there if it didn't work for somebody somewhere. So that's not a good reason to buy anything, granted, but I think this stuff, complex training has kind of historically been in jump programs for a reason, because it works well. It's not the only way to train. It's not necessarily even the best way to train. I mean, the best way is really to kind of find out which combination of strength and speed over time works for you, with putting high intensity work at the premium, especially the high intensity work that you tolerate. But it's a great tool, and I think that at the least, I think it can be used a couple cycles each year. If there's a strong buy-in, I think kind of saving it towards taper time and using it kind of presenting it with a strong buy-in effect, and then selecting appropriate exercises is really helpful. So I think it's a good thing. Again, not the best, but great tool. And I think that any athlete who's interested in jumping higher certainly couldn't hurt themselves by giving it a solid shot. So that's what I have to say about that. Hope it helps you out with your training direction, and I hope it helps your workouts just get a little bit better.